Emma Carter had always lived her life inside invisible lines she never dared to cross. She woke up early, worked hard, smiled at the right moments, and stayed out of anything that felt too emotional or too complicated. For most of her life, that kind of careful living felt safe. But over the past year, something began to shift inside her. She felt a restlessness she couldn't explain, like a quiet knocking at the back of her mind that she kept trying to ignore. It wasn't dramatic, but it was constant. And it made her feel as if she was losing control of her own heart. That Friday evening, the knocking became impossible to ignore. The rain outside her Seattle apartment tapped against the windows in a slow, steady rhythm, making the small space feel even quieter than usual. Emma stood in her living room with her arms wrapped around herself, not from cold, but from the weight of the feelings she had carried all week. Work had been overwhelming. Sleep had been shallow. And her emotions, usually easy to hide, felt like they were sitting right under her skin. She didn't want to cry. She didn't want to break. She just wanted to understand why she felt so alone. Even when she Emma collapsed onto her gray couch, staring at the soft glow of the lamp beside her. She thought about the people in her life, coworkers, neighbors, acquaintances, but none of them felt like people she could call in a moment like this. None except Liam Parker and Mia Donovan. Liam had been her closest friend for years. The kind of friend who showed up when she didn't ask and understood her even when she didn't speak. He had a calm, steady presence that made the world feel less heavy. And Mia, his older cousin, had moved to Seattle months earlier. Mia was warm, confident, and thoughtful in a way that made Emma feel seen without feeling exposed. The three of them had spent a few evenings together before, sharing quiet conversations and simple food. It wasn't complicated, and that was why Emma treasured it. But inviting them over tonight felt different. It wasn't just about company. It was about confronting something inside herself, her fear of closeness. Her fear of needing people, her fear of letting her emotions show. She had avoided that for years. But tonight she felt too tired to run from it. She picked up her phone, her thumb trembling slightly. She typed the message 3 times before deleting it. Finally, she forced herself to stop overthinking and just send it. Hey, are you two free tonight? Could you come over? I think I need company. Soon as the message went through, her heart clenched. She didn't know what they would think. She didn't know if she had said too much or not enough. She didn't want to sound desperate. But she also didn't want to pretend she was okay. Her phone buzzed only a few seconds later. It was Liam, of course. Are you all right? We're heading out now. Then another message from Mia. We'll be there soon, Emma. Don't worry. They were coming. They didn't question her invitation. They didn't hesitate. Instead of relief, Emma felt another wave of panic. What was she doing? What was she about to face? What would she even say when they arrived? She stood up quickly and moved around her apartment without really knowing why. She adjusted the blankets on the couch. She lit a vanilla candle because it made the room smell warm. She wiped her kitchen counter even though it was clean. Her hands felt shaky, her mind racing through a swirl of thoughts. Too many, too fast. She wasn't trying to impress them. That wasn't the problem. The problem was the truth she didn't want to admit. They made her feel something she didn't know how to handle. Not in an inappropriate way, not in a dramatic way, but in a human waking connection, comfort. The feeling of being understood. And Emma had spent most of her adult life avoiding that kind of vulnerability. She used routines and quiet evenings to hide from emotions she didn't think she deserved to feel. Tonight, she'd opened the door to all of it, and she didn't know why. The doorbell rang exactly 40 minutes later. Emma froze. Her heart pounded so loudly she wondered if they could hear it through the door. She walked toward it slowly, inhaling deeply before she turned the knob. Liam stood there first, his blue hoodie slightly damp from the rain, his expression soft but concerned. Mia stood beside him, her warm brown eyes scanning Emma's face instantly. They weren't judging. They weren't questioning. They were just present. And somehow that made everything inside Emma twist with emotion she wasn't ready for. You okay? Liam asked gently. Emma, nodded even though she wasn't sure. Just needed people. Needed you. Mia stepped forward and wrapped her in a gentle hug. We're here. Their presence in her small apartment changed the entire atmosphere. The room felt lighter and heavier at the same time. Emma guided them toward the living room, trying to ignore the awkward flutter in her stomach. She wasn't used to letting people see her unsteady. She wasn't used to asking for help. But tonight she felt too raw to pretend she was fine. They settled on the couch, the three of them close enough that Emma could feel the warmth of their bodies. Liam watched her quietly, waiting for her to speak at her own pace. Mia placed a comforting hand on her arm. Emma didn't know how to start, so she simply spoke the truth. I've been feeling overwhelmed. More than usual. And I didn't know what else to do except ask you to come. That's what friends are for, Liam said softly. You don't have to go through everything alone. Emma looked down at her hands. I know. I push people away. Even the ones I care about. I get scared of connection. Scared of letting people get too close. Mia nodded slowly. But tonight you invited us. That's a big step. Emma felt her chest tighten, a mix of fear and gratitude. She didn't understand why opening up to them was easier than opening up to anyone else. Maybe it was their patience. Maybe it was how they listened without rushing her. Maybe it was something simpler. She trusted them. The three sat in a quiet circle of soft lamplight and low shadows. The rain outside continued tapping gently, as if the world was reminding them to slow down. Emma wasn't used to being the center of attention, especially not in an emotional way. But tonight, something deep inside her had cracked open. She couldn't hide anymore. She looked at both of them and whispered, "Thank you for coming." Liam leaned back slightly, giving her a calm smile. "We're here as long as you need." Mia nodded. "You don't have to test yourself alone." Emma didn't fully understand what she was testing. Not yet. But she knew one thing. Inviting them tonight was the bravest decision she had made in a long time. What she didn't know was that this small decision, the simple act of reaching out, was about to change the entire direction of her life, because the moment she finally started to relax, her phone lit up beside her, a new message, and everything inside her stopped. The rain outside continued to fall, soft and rhythmic, creating a quiet cocoon around Emma's apartment. Inside, the warmth of the lamplights and the presence of Liam and Mia made the space feel unusually intimate. Emma tried to focus on the steady thrum of the rain, but her thoughts kept drifting to the two people sitting across from her. Their eyes held concern and curiosity, but also a kind of patience that made her heart ache. She had never felt this raw with anyone before, and it was equal parts frightening and comforting. Emma shifted slightly on the couch, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "I don't even know where to start," she admitted quietly, her voice almost swallowed by the room. "You start wherever feels right," Mia replied softly, her hand still resting lightly on Emma's arm. Her touch wasn't demanding, but grounding, and Emma felt herself relax a little. Liam nodded beside her, giving a small, encouraging smile. "We're not going anywhere," he said. "No judgment. No pressure. Just us here with you." Emma exhaled slowly, trying to organize the jumble of thoughts inside her head. I just wanted to see what it felt like too. Not run away. To let myself be honest about how lonely I've been." She paused, looking down at her hands, fidgeting with the edge of her sleeve. "I'm usually so careful. I avoid anyone getting too close. I don't let myself feel too much because I'm scared it'll break me." Mia squeezed her hand gently. "You're not broken, Emma. You're human. And you deserve to feel everything, even the hard things." Emma's eyes welled up, and she blinked quickly to keep herself from crying. There was something in the way Mia spoke, something warm, unwavering, and real that made her chest tighten. Liam leaned forward slightly, resting his elbows on his knees, his gaze steady. "You've been carrying this alone for too long," he said. "It's okay to let it out." Emma nodded, swallowing hard. She had wanted this night to be different, calmer, safer. She hadn't expected to feel the surge of emotion building in her chest so quickly. But now, with them there, it was impossible to hide. And part of her wanted to surrender to it, even though it terrified her. I didn't know how to ask for help before, she admitted. I always thought asking meant I was weak or needy. She looked up at Liam and Mia, her eyes glossy. But tonight, I wanted to see if I could trust someone enough to let them in. Mia smiled softly. And you did. That's huge, Emma. Really huge. For a moment, the three of them sat in silence, the only sounds the rain outside and the soft hum of the heater. Emma felt the tension in her shoulders ease slightly. She had spent so long keeping herself in check. But now, sitting here with Liam and Mia, she realized she had been carrying a weight she didn't even fully understand until it was shared. Liam broke the quiet with a small, teasing smile. I'm glad you invited us over. I was worried we'd just end up sitting in silence the whole night. Emma chuckled softly, the sound a little shaky. Well, some silence isn't so bad when it's not empty, right? Mia laughed, a quiet melodic sound that made Emma feel lighter than she had in months. Exactly. Silence can be comforting if the right people are there with you. The conversation shifted naturally, moving from memories of college to small stories about work and mundane daily life. But beneath the light chatter, there was a subtle current of emotional honesty running through everything. Emma found herself talking about things she hadn't shared with anyone before: the feeling of being trapped in routines, the fear of never really connecting with anyone, and the small joys she sometimes allowed herself to feel but never acknowledged. Liam listened attentively, never interrupting, never offering solutions he thought she needed. He just heard her, and that made her feel seen. It was a sensation she didn't know she had been missing until that moment. Mia chimed in occasionally, offering gentle observations or relatable anecdotes. She never tried to steer the conversation too quickly, but her presence was steady, warm, and reassuring. Emma realized she could finally be vulnerable without fear. She could speak without carefully choosing words to protect herself. She could let someone in without worrying about what they would think. As the evening went on, the rain slowed, leaving a soft, misty calm outside. Emma noticed the small details she had never allowed herself to appreciate: the warmth of the room, the way Liam's eyes crinkled when he smiled, the soothing cadence of Mia's voice. She realized she hadn't felt truly safe like this in years, not because she didn't have friends or love, but because she had been unwilling to fully accept it. I don't know why I've been so scared, Emma said suddenly, her voice barely above a whisper. I've always thought I had to be strong alone. But maybe strength isn't about being alone. Maybe it's about letting the people who care about you actually care. Mia's hand found hers again, squeezing gently. Exactly. Strength doesn't mean isolation. Strength means facing your fears, letting yourself be vulnerable, and still knowing you're okay. Emma swallowed, feeling the lump in her throat loosen slightly. Liam leaned back, giving her space but remaining close enough that she could feel his presence. You're okay, Emma, and you're allowed to feel everything without apologizing. A quiet, comfortable energy settled over them. Emma felt the tension in her chest loosen. For the first time in months, she allowed herself to breathe fully, to just be. She realized that she had wanted more than company tonight. She had wanted validation, understanding, and the courage to face herself. And in the presence of Liam and Mia, she found it. Her mind wandered briefly to what she might have missed over the years. The moments she could have shared if she had allowed herself to trust more. But instead of regret, she felt gratitude. She was here now, and she was alive in this moment, letting herself feel without fear. The night stretched on gently. Emma told stories from her childhood, shared small insecurities, and even laughed at memories she had long buried. Liam and Mia responded with their own stories, creating a delicate rhythm of connection, laughter, and comfort. It wasn't romantic in an obvious way, but the subtle emotional closeness created a quiet intimacy. Emma felt seen, appreciated, and unafraid. Then, just as Emma was beginning to feel entirely at ease, she noticed something in Liam's expression and intensity she hadn't seen before. His brows were slightly furrowed, and there was a seriousness in his gaze that made her stop mid-sentence. "Emma," he said softly, "there's something you need to know. Something I haven't said yet." Emma's heart skipped a beat. Mia leaned slightly closer to her, her hand still holding Emma's eyes, alert but gentle. "What is it?" Emma asked quietly, feeling a sudden mix of curiosity and anxiety. Liam hesitated, as if carefully choosing his words. "I've been holding back because I didn't want to pressure you. But I need to be honest with you about how I feel. And I think Mia feels the same way. We care about you more than just friends, but we didn't want to complicate things until you were ready to face it." Emma's chest tightened. She hadn't expected this. She had invited them over to test her emotional limits, to feel safe, to allow connection, but the truth of their feelings added a new, delicate tension. Her mind raced, unsure how to respond. She didn't want to reject them, but she didn't want to lose herself in the fear of what might happen next. Mia's gaze softened. "We're not asking for anything drastic," she said. "We just want you to know. We care, that's all. And you can take your time. You don't have to say anything right now." Emma exhaled slowly, feeling the weight of the truth settle around her. She realized that the night was no longer just about comfort, it was about confronting the emotions she had kept hidden, about acknowledging that vulnerability wasn't weakness, and about understanding that love and care could exist in many forms for the first time. She allowed herself to imagine a life where she didn't run from emotional closeness, where she could let people in without fear. And even though her heart was still beating fast, she felt an unfamiliar, exhilarating sense of hope. The rain had stopped entirely now. The city outside was quiet, and inside Emma felt a fragile but undeniable sense of connection. The three of them remained close on the couch, enveloped in the warmth of the room and the gentle bond they were forming. It was the beginning of something new, something neither predictable nor safe, but real. And in that moment, Emma understood that testing her limits wasn't about daring to do something reckless. It was about daring to feel, daring to trust, and daring to let herself be seen. Little did she know, the night was far from over. The truths that had been gently unfolding would soon demand even more honest, and Emma would have to face them head on. Emma, Kata, felt a new kind of tension that night, one that was not frightening, yet demanded her full attention. After hours of talking, laughing, and quietly sharing pieces of herself, Liam's earlier words lingered in the room. The subtle confession, the gentle honesty about their feelings hung between them like a fragile thread. It wasn't heavy or dramatic, but it carried a weight Emma couldn't ignore. She had come over wanting to test her limits, to see if she could face her emotions without running away. And now, sitting on her couch with Liam and Mia, she realized she was on the verge of discovering something far more significant than she had imagined. The room was quiet for a moment. Outside, the city lights flickered softly through the rain-streaked windows. Emma glanced at Liam first. His expression was calm, almost cautious, but there was an intensity in his eyes that made her chest beat faster. Then she looked at Mia. Mia's gaze was gentle, unwavering, full of warmth and care. Emma felt a mixture of fear, excitement, and relief swirl inside her. She didn't know what to say next. She didn't want to speak too soon, but she also knew silence would never be enough. I invited you tonight," Emma began, her voice trembling slightly, "because I wanted to test myself. Not in any dramatic way. I just wanted to see if I could stop running from feelings, from connection." She swallowed hard, glancing from Liam to Mia, her hands twisting nervously in her lap. "And I think I've realized something tonight. I've been afraid of needing people, afraid of letting anyone see me completely. But I don't want to be afraid anymore." Mia reached out and gently rested her hand on Emma's. "You don't have to be afraid, Emma," she said softly. "Not with us. We're here and we care. You don't have to hide anything." Liam nodded, his voice steady and warm. "You've been strong on your own for a long time. But strength isn't always about doing everything alone. Sometimes it's about letting others be there for you. And that's what we want to do if you let us." Emma felt a lump in her throat. Her whole life, she had measured herself by her independence, by how little she needed from others. But tonight, she realized something fundamental. Needing people didn't make her weak. It made her human. And allowing herself to feel that need, to accept it, was an act of courage she had rarely given herself. I think I understand that now," she whispered. Her eyes shimmered with unshed tears, not of sadness, but of relief and release. "I wanted to see if I could trust someone enough to let them in. And I think I can. With both of you." The three of them sat in silence for a moment, letting her words settle. The room felt heavy with emotion, but not in a painful way. It was full of warmth, trust, and a quiet understanding that words alone could never fully capture. Emma realized that this night wasn't about grand gestures or dramatic declarations. It was about honesty, presence, and the slow building of connection. Liam shifted slightly, his hand brushing against hers, careful and light. "Emma, I've cared about you for a long time. Not just as a friend, more than that. And I think Mia feels the same way. But we didn't say anything before because we didn't want to pressure you. We wanted you to be ready to face it in your own time." Emma's chest tightened. She had expected to test her own limits, but she hadn't expected this level of honesty. Her mind raced, unsure how to respond. But deep inside, she knew she didn't have to respond perfectly. She didn't have to solve anything tonight. She just had to let herself feel the truth of their words and the reality of their care.